He called me Bella. Marco was 25, and I was 33. You can do the math. I had recently walked out of a 6-year relationship and found myself in that crazy phase where I had to remember to say I instead of we, to reinvent myself as a single woman, and to prove my husband wrong. It had only been 4 months since we stood there in the kitchen. He made his sandwich and chided at me. I'd like to see your dating profile. Must be vegetarian and willing to compost with worms and live in a house with no air conditioning. Good luck with that. I didn't want to spark the beast anymore, so I chose to remain silent and walk away thinking, and this is why I'm leaving you. But I have to admit, part of me thought, well, what if he's right? I was ready to get back out there, but I must admit I was not prepared to fall in love. We met at an online dating site. The last time I had been on the dating scene, Match.com and eHarmony were in their infancy, and Facebook was restricted to only those with a valid university email. I'd received several requests for my suggestion to go on a haunted pub crawl as a date on howaboutwe.com. But one in particular stood out, Marco. He called himself a young tech entrepreneur who enjoyed sailing and motorcycles. I have to admit, I was intrigued, but I thought, man, 25, that's a bit young. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I decided to give him a shot. I mean, if he was anything like my 23-year-old roommate Tom, who would get drunk all the time and bust a hole in the hammock, knock picture frames off the wall, and pick up my 45-pound pit bull like a baby while me and the rest of the intoxicated partygoers went, Tom, I don't think she likes that. Then it was not gonna work out. We met at a bar, and with a name like Marco, I half expected him to have an accent. He did not. He was tall, dark, and handsome, with deep, soulful brown eyes, and sure enough, a baby face. Totally my type. We were instantly attracted to each other. Over the course of our 5-hour date, we used any excuse to get closer to each other. I would lean forward on the table, and he would do the same. Our arms would touch, we would laugh and paw at each other. It was the perfect first date. As our date grew to a close, he took me to my other Italian stallion, my Vespa. He, coincidentally, had parked his scooter right across the street. And as he drove off, he called back to me, Ciao, Bella. Ciao, Marco. It was 2 weeks into our relationship when I realized this was like nothing I had ever experienced before. We had a true connection. We were like the same person. We had a foundation of trust and honesty that I had never experienced with any other human being. And we shared stories that we had not shared with anyone else. As we sat at the Red Derby, sipping our drinks, I checked in with him. So Marco, see Bella, do you see any, red flags? He sipped his drink, thought for a moment, and responded, yeah, the vegetarian thing. I like my meat. Okay, all right, this is easy, right? So when I cook, it'll be vegan, and when you cook, just make sure there's something I can eat. Okay, but I see another problem. I tend to like my house pretty cool, and yours is so hot. Actually, it's my roommates that hate the air conditioning, but I feel like there's a happy compromise that we could reach. But honestly, Marco, what I see as being a bigger hindrance is that my dogs will want to kill your cats. Dogs, cats, they can work it out. Okay, but I am so not moving to Virginia. Well, honestly, I don't mind living in DC. Where would you want to live? Well, I kind of like where I'm living now, here in Columbia Heights. But honestly, Marco, with your 2-bedroom requirement, there's no way I could afford it. Well, how much does a 2-bedroom cost? Well, I don't know. It's sort of like, oh my God, wait a minute, Marco. Did we just have an accidental moving in conversation? 2 weeks into our relationship? We both actually laughed, embarrassed at our willingness to just jump in there. But I felt like I had lost my mind. I mean, this was hardly the behavior of a 33-year-old woman. Hadn't I learned anything from my previous relationship where we moved in together after only 3 months of dating? But admittedly, we were head over heels in love. So 4 months later, things had gotten a little busy at work, and he started getting a little flaky. He would forget to actually go on some dates that we had scheduled. He would not text me back. He even canceled a date that we had planned for 2 weeks in order to go to impromptu barbecue with his parents. excuse. So I felt like he was pulling away. And on Halloween, as I stood there in my super cute slutty pirate outfit, alone, drunk, at a concert, by myself, I checked my phone. He had canceled yet another date. I was angry, I was frustrated, and I was worried about our relationship. And so I reached out to him in a clear cry for help moment via the worst communication method possible, Facebook Messenger. I said, we're both too busy to be in a relationship, so let's just not. I then grabbed my drunk o'clock Ben's chili bowl, headed home, passed out on the couch. I expected a declaration of his everlasting love, that he could never live without me, and that he was a fool not to tell his work to fuck off so that we could go sailing, like we did back in September, where he captained the boat, and I stood at the front of the bow like in Titanic, except the only song that was going through my head was Styx' Come Sail Away. But instead, I woke up to a one-word response. Okay. And it shattered me to the core. How could a connection like that just be dropped, like unceremoniously, like a piece of trash on the side of the road? I became obsessed with closure. I needed to find out what had happened, and Facebook became my cyber-stalking tool of choice. I would check his wall every 15 minutes to find out what he was up to, if he had said anything, or if he changed out that profile picture of the two of us, where we both looked amazing that night in New York. And I would only see pictures of his cats. And I would be so hurt. You guys, eventually he did change out his profile picture, but I couldn't stop there. I needed to see more. I needed to understand more. It was like the digital equivalent of cutting. I would text him, "Ciao, bello." "Hey," is all he would respond. I thought if he didn't want to talk to me, he could simply ignore my messages. After all, that's what my generation did. When you broke up with someone, you would immediately delete their contact information, burn any photographic evidence, and avoid common hangout areas until you had lost the weight that you had gained while eating pints of Ben and Jerry's and executing steps 1 and 2. But admittedly, I came to realize his generation never closes the door. And although we may always remain friends on Facebook, he will never call me Bella again.